Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast by fans for fans, where all the content is absolutely free. Coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. I'm your host tonight, Brian Archer, and as always, we would encourage you to get onto the Gersnet website, check out our forums for all your latest Rangers news and discussion. We're live tonight on the YouTube channel, and we'd ask that you continue to share the podcast on social media and spread the word, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Before I introduce my guest for tonight, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the podcast. If you want more information about them, please visit their website at www.forestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand, and for more information on that, email the club hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right, now to bring in my guest, joining me tonight is Alex Anderson. Alex, how's things?
Aye, I don't know, Brian. Do you know that the Europa League, that's the lowest we've ever finished in a league table in our entire history. Folk are, when they finished 8th, that's great. They're through to the last 16 automatically. The Rangers have never. I'm trying to work this out. Maybe somebody out there can tell me. But we finished 6th in the top flight in 1926. That's the lowest we ever finished. We did it once, and then you get your League Cup sectionals. You couldn't finish any worse than 4th. Europa League, even the UEFA Cup went to like 5-team groups. We couldn't finish any lower than 5th. We never finished, even on the bottom tier, the lower leagues. We finished 3rd in the Championship. That was the lowest we finished in any of them. So that's actually the most disgraceful performance in our history for Rangers in a league table. And they're talking about, it's 2-0. Oh, we're 2 goals up. The Fenerbahce tough to win with 2 clear goals. Well, that's the first game last night that we haven't gone 2-0 down out of the last 4. We've gone 2-0 down in the 3 straight games before that. And Fenerbahce, I mean, they beat Union St Gilloise 2-1 at home in the first game in the group stage. So we're no better. They're exactly the same as them. And they've got a goalkeeper. He saved a penalty that night, a reserve goalkeeper. He's a penalties expert. So they come to Ibrox and they'd go the 2-0 up that everybody else does when they come to Ibrox. That's Ibrox, the cauldron where they're supposed to be dead scared and all that. Well, I've been to Ibrox the last 3 games at Ibrox and we get beaten every one of them. Won them off Queen's Park during the Championship. See these happy clappers that are making it this was a great result last night. I'm sick to the back teeth of them, Brian. Absolutely sick to the back teeth of them. Plus that tap in the kitchen keeps dripping and all that. I'm going to have to go and get a washer at B&Q tomorrow and that. You ever watch that Bridge of Lies? It's not a bridge. It's stepping stones. It doesn't even shape. And why is he shouting? So no, but yourself, mate. You all right?
I'm good. You've certainly put things in perspective for me.
We've got to keep our feet in the ground, Brian. We've got to keep our feet in the ground. You know, it's only half time. Barry said that. It's only half time.
Yeah. I don't think we'll have any problems with that this season, to be honest. So yeah, let's get straight into it, Alex. Obviously, good result last night. Unexpected, I've got to say. How are you feeling going into it? Before we talk about the game itself and the team lineups, how were you feeling going into it? Because I've got to admit, I wasn't massively confident, if I'm being honest.
No, I went over the edge after the Motherwell game. I don't mean like violently over the edge or anything like that. I just started to kind of inside. I just lost it. My problem is I don't do away games anymore. I do Hampden, I do Ibrox. That's it. I've been saying for years. I can't do the cocaine. I just can't do the cocaine anymore. So I can't go to the away games. So I just go to Ibrox and I go as often as possible. I rarely miss a home game or a game at Hampden. So I'm watching. We've done this thing where we've pivoted. It was the home form. We didn't get beat at home domestically all season. Yep. And then away from home was the problem. And we've just pivoted recently. And these 3 straight home games, I'm going there and it's grim because of the atmosphere, because the bile that's coming, folk are all fawning out round about you and stuff like that. And I think it just kind of pushed me over the edge. I'm like Saturday 3 o'clock, yes. Finally, games on Saturday 3 o'clock, and the last 2 have been absolutely rank. And I find myself starting to give it. I wish the games were actually on a Sunday, so I was guaranteed to have a nice relaxing Friday night and Saturday to myself. So I've been really positive. I don't even think you have to be positive about the European form. It's just there in front of you. This team have done brilliantly in Europe, especially away from home. But it was under Philippe Clement, and I thought it's going to be just like the thing. Barry's going to come in, it's all going to go to pieces in Europe, but maybe we'll pick up domestically. So I was in a downer, and my starting point was don't get humped. Just don't get destroyed over there. I don't want it to be an annihilation. And the problem, I'm obviously having a bit of a laugh and all that, trying to make it I'm depressed about last night's result, but the genuine problem we have now is it's been turned around. We can't go out of this round now without it being another total calamity because it's such a good result, So I was actually found myself kind of like, I hate myself for saying this, but instinctively I was kind of thinking, you always know what you want to happen. I want us to win the Europa League. I want us to win everything always. But I was starting to feel I just need to be too up and down. Oh, the takeover, we're going to win everything. We're going to be rich. Oh, Queen's Park, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to us in my life. It's been too up and down, and I was shot to pieces, nervous. My nerves were shot to pieces. I thought, just get beat 2-1 or something. In Istanbul, draw with them at Ibrox, and it's like, well, they got to the knockout stages again in Europe. That's nice. So to go over there and just, I'm kind of ashamed of myself of having lost faith for a wee while, but it was absolutely magnificent. And I was not looking forward to it at all, mate. So it was a massive, pleasant surprise.
Yeah, definitely. And we might have lost a bit of faith, but the team certainly didn't, and the management team didn't either, because they pulled a few rabbits out of hats with that team lineup. So that's the kind of first thing to touch on. There was a fair few surprises in there. I mean, right off the bat, I kind of thought he was going to go Ridvan on the left as a kind of advanced left forward. But when you saw the teams line up, the obviously first thing you noticed was he kind of surprised everybody by going with a back five. I mean, what did you make of the way we lined up?
It was confusing. It was confusing when you're looking at the team coming in, because I was doing that thing, I'm sitting down to watch it in TNT, but I've got to have my tea, because I don't miss any meals, as you can tell. So I was kind of rushing to get sat down, and I was seeing the team coming up just before, and I'm like, all right, so we've got 2 centre halves, that's fine, because you're not thinking of Tav as a centre half, despite the fact that he's played at Old Trafford. You see, you're just like, Yilmaz, I'm having trouble fitting. Oh, Yilmaz must be doing that thing. He must be playing maybe wide, that attacking left, but then you've got the 3 corner barons in there, as well as Diamandi. And I know we had the thing a couple of times, a couple of away games in the group stage, we had them as a kind of a triangle with Diamandi going to the 10 position. But I don't see, is it 4-3-3? But wait, it wasn't fitting together. And then I kind of just let it go because I was too busy concentrating my pork chops. Then out onto the park, and like, that's all right, we're going 3 at the back. It's Tav is going to be the centre half, and they're going to go to a 5 at the back. And I thought it was brave. And again, at the time, I hate myself for saying this, but it's because Barry's taken over. In Europe, we've just been fantastic away from home. It's just since Clement came in. But I thought, if it's going to fall to pieces, maybe this is where it's going to fall to pieces. We change the formation, and that's been working for us in Europe, and it collapses. But it worked an absolute treat, and I think it's massive kudos to Barry, who at first, even when I realised it was working last night, I'm thinking it was probably Neil McCann. He's always on sports scene talking tactics. Probably Neil McCann came up with the strategy, and Barry's like, aye, all right, okay, But according to Barry, it was him. He had to convince the rest of his coaching staff to go along with it. So absolute kudos to him.
Yeah. Is it even more impressive in the kind of context of the fact that he's not had a lot of time on the training pitch with. He's probably only had, a handful of hours in terms of actual training time. But also it kind of reminded me of a comment that now I don't always want to kind of hark back to Clement and things, but it reminded me of a comment. He was asked in a press conference a while back about changing formation and is it something you consider doing? And he kind of made the point of, if I think he said something along the lines of, if I change the formation, it might confuse the players, and we don't have a lot of time to train on it, so it's not something we're going to do. And then Barry Ferguson and his team of quote unquote inexperienced coaches have came in, and they've implemented this whole new tactical game plan with only a handful of training sessions, really.
I know. I mean, you're so used to the 4-2-3-1. It is a massive tactical change, but it was still, I felt as if the kind of spirit of Clement was still there in that, let the opposition come onto us, and we'll rip them to pieces on the counter attack. That's what they've been doing under Clement, and getting historically good results since they came in October 2023. But obviously, it's a massive change to go to 3 centre halves. But I say, even having Raskan, Conor Barron, it's bold to bring Conor Barron back in, but Raskan, Conor Barron, and Diamandi in the middle, just causing havoc, just wreaking havoc. The way they did against Nice, the way the three of them did against Olympiacos in Piraeus. 2 phenomenal nights for us already. So they're used to doing that kind of thing. It wasn't completely off the wall, but it's still a massive enough change at that level of football. And I don't know if he's been talking to the players as well and kind of sussing out what they didn't like about Clement, and maybe this has been an idea they've come up with off the back of that. But I think it's really brave of Barry, and I think it highlights this thing. You could do a pod, an hour-long pod, just talking about having Barry in as interim manager and what it means. I think we all see him as being somebody who's managed in the lower leagues. He's never going to be, he packed it in for a few years doing the ambassadorial role at Ibrox. He's never going to be a top-level manager. But Real Madrid reserves, they're a big deal. Real Madrid reserves are quite a big deal in Spain, obviously. Castile, they've played in Europe and all that as well. But he coached them for 2 years. That was his only managerial experience. Then he goes in and he wins 3 straight Champions Leagues because he knows the club. He knows what's required. He knows the level of player they've got there. And you forget that Barry has captained us in a European final. He's not going to learn nothing under McLeish, Walter Smith, the Dick Advocaat, all the great managers he's played under. And the thing that Chris Boyd, I've had my problems with Chris Boyd's been attacking Philippe Clement this season. But he did say before the game at Rugby Park, Barry's first game in charge, he pointed out that great players, but Barry's maybe, when he's managing Clyde and Celtic Hearts and even caretaker manager at Blackpool, he's playing with a level of player that he can't understand. And the players at Rangers just now aren't as good as Barry, as Chris Boyd was saying that night, but at least he knows how this is much closer to understanding how this level of football works. Because Barry Ferguson's one of the greatest players I've ever seen in my life. I had real problems with him, the way he ended up leaving Rangers and the way he undermined Le Guen and what have you. But there's no getting away from it. He's one of the greatest players I've ever seen playing for Rangers. He's an absolute class act. So I think it's that thing of he just understands this level of football instinctively. And as he said himself, he's been studying Fenerbahce. He did his homework. And that is only half time, as we keep saying. It's a horrible cliche, it's a truism, but he has to be congratulated on sending Mourinho down the tunnel even at half time last night with a work to do. Mourinho had more work to do at half time than Barry. Has to make a change straight away the second half. And he has to make another change, like kind of 50 odd minutes in, Mourinho, into the second half as well. So he had the special one flapping, and it's quite an achievement.
Yeah, it's interesting the kind of point you make about, Barry being a former player, and it's always interesting when, really top level players like that go into management. You do wonder if they're kind of watching training thinking, I could do that, why can they not do what I could do, kind of thing. But one player who he has seemed to have made a marked improvement in for me is Dessers now. I know Dessers is a very divisive figure amongst the Rangers support, and people kind of flop one way or the other on him, depending on whether he's on a hot streak or not. But he's certainly been not just scoring the goals for me since Ferguson came in, but his work rate has also been a noticeable difference for me in his work rate. And that's maybe down to Ferguson having played the game at the top level. Also, some of the coaches that he's brought in, Billy Dodds, maybe working with Dessers as well.
Aye, I mean, Philippe Clement played for Belgium in World Cups and European Championships. A centre half, he captained Bruges to the cup finals and things like that. He's a good manager, and he's a good player as well. Philippe Clement, I quite like that combination. It wasn't like Michael Beale. He actually knew both sides of the game, but I think we saw him come off Rugby Park after he scored the 2 goals against Kilmarnock. Dessers, he goes up to Billy Dodds, and the two of them are embracing like long lost brothers, big smiles and all that. So it's like you say, Billy Dodds has been there. It's an actual striker, an experienced striker that he can work with, and he's in the coaching staff. And Billy Dodds has played for Rangers at that level. He knows what it's all about. He scored for us in the Champions League and what have you, Billy Dodds. So he's in there. Maybe that couple of hours we'd have had with Billy Dodds at that point before the game at Rugby Park. But I think Dessers, I feel he's lost a bit of weight. I feel he's a big guy, Dessers. But I feel as if he's just a slightly bit trimmer. And that was from before Clement come in, before Clement get the sack, before the new management team come in. So I don't know if it's been that, but he was getting goals. He was coming on like the sub and scoring against Aberdeen, the 3-0 game against Aberdeen at Ibrox. He's scoring that cracking goal at the end against Dundee United at Tannadice when we beat them 3-1. The wonder goal comes he scored against Manchester United at Old Trafford. He was getting the goals under Clement and recently, and I I don't know if he's just basically hitting a hot streak. I think it's more a case of he's more appreciated, perhaps, by this new management team. They see him as being the star man. Iggerman being dropped last night. Not a big shout for a lot of fans because he's not been scoring goals recently, but I don't think Iggerman's been asked to score goals recently. He's been asked to play at 10 or come off the left and be that kind of... And he does well. I think he does better than he gets credit for, Iggerman, in that role as well. But I think it's quite a big shout to go with Dessers and have Iggerman benched last night. But he's definitely repaid the faith. I think there's a feeling that he wasn't a guy who scores big goals. Does he score the opening goal in a game? Well, he scored the opening goal last night, in a massive game, and he was, unlucky, very, very close to having a hat-trick, as they say, in that game last night. But I don't know I think he might have been on the way to... You can see that hat-trick against Fraserburgh. Nobody wants to talk about that game because it was the competition it was in and where we ended up, but he misses the open goal against Fraserburgh, but then bangs in 3 goals and sets up another one and a 5-0 win. That's the kind of thing that strikers will enjoy. They don't care about the level of opposition. They're getting to put the ball in the net regularly. And I think that might have kind of spurred them onto a streak of form that he scored, was it 22 goals last season for us? And that's him on 22 goals already this season. So he's not wildly improving on what he can do for us, but I think he's maybe getting appreciated more by this new management team, Brian.
Yeah, and another player who I think, you mentioned put the ball in the back of the net there, who's doing that with, quite a good regularity recently is lad club Czerny. Now, 2 goals again from last night, but what's almost even more interesting about the way he's playing since the new manager team came in is they seem to have changed his position slightly. He's not stuck out on the right-hand side anymore. He's given more of a freer role, and I think you've seen it in the last couple of games where he's been kind of asked to come in field a lot and link up more with the strikers and kind of play in field a bit more. Do you think that's benefiting him?
He's ripping teams to pieces. He's ripping them to pieces last night when he goes through the middle like that. It's just he's this season's Abdallah Sima, and I think he's an improvement on Sima only because Sima's a cracking player. The low knee that we had last season that we just wish we could buy this guy, and when he came on, when he was in the team, he made a perceptible difference, and he was great, in a historic win in Seville when we were first win against Spanish opposition in Spanish soil, when we beat Real Betis. Sima did all that, and I'm thinking when he goes, are we going to be able to replace that guy? Well, we get in Václav Černý, and he's had to be rested. That was a big bone of contention over the Christmas period because he'd played so many games, and he looks knackered a lot as well because he's put so much into games. But my God, he makes a difference. He makes it look really easy, Brian. He's actually a guy you almost don't appreciate him at times because of the way he just does the same thing all the time, and that is be in the right place at the right time. And once he gets the ball and he's kind of a defence is backtracking, it's gone in. He's going to score. He's got them in the run. Camel cock. You see that last night when he scored the second goal last night, it put us 2-1 up. The big advert that we slide, I know we're talking about VAR and things you're watching on screens, but when he slides down onto the turf and he goes over, the big advert, then it was ordering the hoardings on the park. It's some Turkish word, but it's camel cock. And I thought, maybe that's just hung like a donkey. Maybe that's the Turkish version of that. But he's a dude. He's totally dude. And he was fantastic last night. I think he's remember the 71st, 72nd minute of the game when it was 2-1 to us, and you're thinking game could go either way. He came off. I think actually come off maybe for a bit of treatment, and I thought that's him going off, and my heart sank because we don't have a lot of pace in this team. He is our pace. Yeah. The way what we're good at is when the opposition have got the ball, pouncing on them, and we're sharp. We're relaxed when the opposition have got the ball, and it's speed of movement, speed of thought. For this team, it's away from home. That's their kind of the fastest thing about us. But he has the actual pace to burn as well, Czerny. And that thing where he's just going through and goal, and it's going to go into his left foot and he's going to slot it under the goalie. And it's going to go in did it at Tynecastle, what you did at Rugby Park. You've seen it so many times. It's just so smooth that you almost forget he's there. You almost forget, all right, Czerny scored a goal, but that's what he does. And that's an invaluable thing to have with a footballer. I mean, he has his moments. He disappears out of games and things like that, and he'll have his kind of misses. If you think about the guy who's missed that chance against Leon where we had Lyon at Ibrox in the group stage of this tournament. Was it to make it 2-1 to Rangers, 2 each? It was early on, and Lyon go on to pound us. This guy's no good. He missed an absolute sitter, and I think he scored 2 goals against St Johnstone in the match after that to beat them, and he's just gone from strength to strength. He's absolutely invaluable, and he's particularly invaluable when we set up the way we do away from home, Brian, in European competition.
Yeah, you mentioned the comparison with Abdallah Sima there. Is that in itself almost a problem that yet again we've found that one of our best players, if not our best player this season, is another loan player that the likelihood is we won't be able to afford come the window in terms of making that deal permanent?
Well, I think if you start looking at Rangers, their situation, it's all going to change. Obviously, there'll be hopefully this takeover goes through, and there'll be a serious change in our signing strategy and the kind of players we're going to go for. We maybe not be able to sign a Václav Černý. We're not going to be signing guys above 6 or 7 million. We'll get a lot of guys. A kind of median price will be higher, and instead of going for like a 1.5 million kind of wunderkind hopeful and Egeman, we'll be going for £4 million players that are more tried and tested. So that kind of thing. I don't know. It's all a fantasy until it officially happens. But if that takeover wasn't happening, if we're not changing the financial model, it's actually working quite well. Because you look at Sima, as I say, injured a lot last season. If he had, the minute when he came on at half time in the Scottish Cup final, another hotly contested VAR decision, but we could have won that Scottish Cup because of Sima, because of the difference he made. He had that kind of importance for us, but then he was injured quite a lot, and then we'll get Černý in this season. He's almost like the replacement. I think he plays on a different wing, he plays a different side of the park, but he's that same amount of quality, but he's fit more often. We've run him into the ground, so he get knackered over the Christmas period, had to get rested in games that cost us points. But maybe, if it hadn't been for the money we're hopefully going to get from Parag Marat and his pal Andrew Kavanagh, this would be the way ahead. And it's you're going to have big name loanee players, well sourced loans of that kind of quality, and we've actually upgraded it this season. So it all comes down to it. When they're scoring goals like this for us, you can't take those goals away just because the guy's on loan. It just counts the same as a player who's here on a 5-year contract. So as long as we can keep replacing the loanee, the big name loanee, with another big name loanee who works just as well, it would be fine, mate. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how the potential new owners kind of affect any potential transfer spend and what we can or can't do in terms of making that deal permanent. Getting back to the game and kind of looking at it, overall, obviously 3-1 win, we've said, it's only half time, but that third goal, it really gives us a bit of breathing room going into next week, where we can probably play it a bit differently. We don't have to go there and win. We can maybe set up a bit differently, but just how crucial do you think that third goal and that kind of extra breathing room could prove to be?
It's vital, absolutely vital. I've not a proper look at it. I was trying to think of games that we've won away from home in Europe. In the first leg, a 2-legged affair, we've won the away game and then we've come back to Ibrox and still gone out. I can't think of any. I know that obviously in Barry Ferguson, the day Yanis Hadji was born, we beat Bayer Leverkusen in the UEFA Cup as it was then, and Leverkusen too, and we drew with them at Ibrox, but we went through. It was tight, but we went through. Same of course, and there was so many parallels with the game with Dortmund last night, or most recent game with Dortmund. We've got some history with Dortmund. Just the stadium, and it's our first game after the group stage, and we seem to be up against it, and there's a lot of yellow involved, and we win by 2 clear goals. But that was a hell of a night at Ibrox as well. We should have won that game. Another VAR decision. We should have won it in the end, but it ends up as a draw. But there will be a game. There's probably going to be a tie out there. Somebody can tell me that we won the away leg first, and then we get put out, we get eliminated. But I don't know. But it just gives us that bit of breathing space. It was a real worry to see us, and I think it's also the spirit of Dessers just dominated that game last night. It's no, if at first you don't succeed, just keep going. To twice see the scoreline changing up in the telly to 3-1, and twice it gets chopped off back to 2-1, and to keep going and still get that goal, still go 3-1 up and not let them back into it. I thought if we'd scored one more, it would kill the tie, but if at the same time, if Fenerbahce pulled it back, it'd only been a single goal lead, I think it'd still be pretty much in the balance. So the only problem I've got is, because it is 2 goals, we played so well, if we don't go through, and we're playing against a guy, Mourinho's just one of the greatest managers of all time, and Barry's at pains to point that out in his post-match pressers. If he was to beat Rangers 2-0 at Ibrox, goes to penalties, they put us out in penalties, it would still look like a calamity. You threw it away. So that's unfortunate. That's a little pressure we're going to have to take on Thursday, but I would much rather go in there 2 goals up. And I thought the team did magnificently, Brian, to go for that, to keep it going when it kept getting chopped off, the 3-1 lead, to eventually make it happen.
Yeah, and I'm still not convinced by that first one that got chopped off, to be honest. I still think there's a debate to be had there. No, not really. No, to be honest. Whoever was drawing the line there was, yeah.
The Dessers hasn't lost enough weight. It's his big thighs. That's what it was. His big arse was over the line. You know.
I think that one needs another look at, to be honest. But looking to next week, it's an interesting one because, as you say, we've got the 2-goal cushion. But do you think Ferguson will approach it in the same way, in terms of potentially going with the same setup and style, in terms of letting them come on to us and hitting them on the break, or do you think we'll maybe look to take the game to them a bit more, being the home team?
I think as a support, we should be prepared for Rangers to go out and play the same way as they did last night. Just not to attack to attack on the break, to play the same game, they kind of mugging Fenerbahce the way we did last night. I think that would actually be probably the best way to go, because we're too late to get out of that right now. That's why I was saying, even though it was a significant change in formation last night, the overall kind of vibe, the mental approach from Rangers last night was exactly the same as, I think we had 40% possession. We went to Malmo and we played them off the park, really. Even though we had 40% possession, we should have won that easy. When we beat Celtic at Ibrox at New Year, 2nd of January, we had like 30% possession, and we've totally trashed them that day. So I think we should be maybe giving them possession in their own half or whatever, letting them come on to us and just spring those traps the way we did last night. The first goal we scored last night, Brian, it was almost like we got the shy because the goalkeeper put it out, and we're keeping possession. Lovely, tidy possession play outside the box for 30 seconds or so. But when a Champions League standard team, a proper big, like an Arsenal or a Liverpool or something like that, when they get outside the opposition box, they up it a gear. They try to go for fast possession. We give the ball back to them, and then we take it off them. It's like, right, let's spring the plan now. Give them the ball. Give them the ball on their 18-yard line. We'll take it back off them. Right, they're inside their penalty box. They think they're going to clear it. We win the ball back again. I think Diamondi won it twice. Czerny wins it, and then Dessers robs it off the goalkeeper. It's a really kind of strange, kind of unusual tactic. But I think it's to do with the mentality as well, that we just, we don't like the pressure. We're playing at home. We don't like being the team that has the ball. We lull ourselves to sleep with possession. We prefer watching the opposition having the ball, and we know when to spring more traps. And I think we should try and do that at Ibrox. I think the fans would be up for it as well. I think if it was a really boring 0-0, we'd be absolutely delighted, because it means we're through. Because to get to a quarter-final, a European quarter-final, it's sublime. It'd be absolutely amazing. But it's so dangerous just now, because you can't help thinking about that. And that's the very time that it goes wrong. So I think you should go basically the same tactics. Go 5 at the back again,
Yeah, you mentioned the mentality there, and I don't know about you, but when it went to 3-1, I was sort of sitting there thinking, none of this makes sense. We've been beaten at Ibrox in our last 3 games against Queen's Park, St Mirren and Motherwell, and now here we are, 3-1 up against Fenerbahce, Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce, unlucky not to be more goals ahead, make it make sense. How do we, obviously we've been positive tonight, but how do we kind of, I guess, put this in the context of what has been a pretty bad season, if we're all being honest, if we're looking at it domestically? I mean, what does it say about this team that we can, be so poor on the weekend, but on a Thursday night, just turn up and, comfortably beat a team like Fenerbahce.
It's no unique situation historically for Rangers. There's a lot of, we've got a lot of arguing about just now. Oh, we're playing at a stadium. The final's been staged in a stadium in Spain. It's all red seats and stuff like that. It's just like 2022. In 1972 we finished 16 points behind Celtic in the league. It was only 2 points for a win back then. And we were 16 points behind them just now, but we ended up winning the Cup Winners'. We didn't get to the Scottish Cup final or anything like that, but we won the Cup Winners' Cup. And John Gregg was playing in his second European final. It'd be the same for Tav this season. There's all these things going about, and I think it does bear repeating that in 1971-72, the season we won our only European trophy, we were awful domestically. We had a terrible domestic season. We finished third at top flight, and just we get beat 3 times at Ibrox by Celtic before the middle of September. So that maybe kind of equates with the losing the 3 home games in the trot recently. Just terrible stuff that's happening. But I think because there's been recent seasons in the last 10 years, we've had Celtic winning a treble, undefeated. We had us winning 55, only conceding 13 goals. We went undefeated the whole league season. As Rangers fans, we all feel as if we should win every game anyway. We get a bit spoiled, and we've got massive resources compared to everybody else. So there's some justification in that. But I think there's that kind of thing that we can't handle the fact that it doesn't make sense. Why are we going out the Scottish Cup to Queen's Park? We went out the Scottish Cup to Berwick in '67 and go to a European final that season as well. Why are we going to the Scottish Cup to Queen's Park and then doing these things in Europe? But I think it might be the pressure. The Ibrox suddenly becoming too much for the players, getting a bit toxic, and they go abroad in Europe. That the pressure's not on them. They're not expected to do anything, and they can relax. But they're also playing this particular game, this counter-attacking game that suits that mindset as well. It's a bit like we're at that stage where we haven't quite. In life, if you're trying to achieve something, there's people in your life, negative folk running about you, kind of angry folk who are too lazy to do anything themselves, so they bitch at anybody else who tries to achieve anything. And they'll if you let their voices get you, they'll get you down. And I think Rangers look like that. I'm obsessed with coming back from 2012. I think it will take a while. But I feel as if it's almost like, so you're playing at Ibrox and there's 50,000 folk here supporting you, but they all hate you. You've got that ball. You've got the ball for the whole game, but you can't do anything with it. And it's like, oh God, I don't want the ball. You have it, Dessers. Oh no, I don't want it because I'm going to be crap now. There's a bit like, but as we go abroad and we play a team that's supposed to beat us, it's like we become that person. We're in that zone just now where we haven't achieved what we should. We're a bit bitter. Oh, Fenerbahce. Oh, big scary stadium, is it? Aye, well, we went to the Westfalen and pumped in Dortmund. We've been to Olympiacos and they didn't scare. We drew with them as well. Have the ball, see what you can do. I'm going to get it. It's just, we seem to be unable. We can't make that leap, to be the dominant force that we should be domestically. And up until this season, I think Celtic have been experiencing it the other way around, where they can't handle it European wise. They get stuffed 7-1 at the Westfalen because they're used to dominating, against lesser opposition, which a lot of the time, to be fair to them, has included us domestically recently. I think it's always been a difficult thing in Scotland, that kind of flip for the 2 big sides in Scotland, the 2 big clubs, that kind of flip in mentality. But we definitely have it in European terms, and I think we just need to remember, if you win a European trophy, if you do well in Europe, that is another way, really, of beating Celtic. It's another way of having something over them. It does become a domestic victory as well. But I don't know, Brian. Sorry. Basically, the answer is I don't know.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think any of us know, and I think that's part of the problem. I think we're all kind of scratching our head, wondering what's going on here. How can this be possible? Another interesting aspect of this tie, I just wanted to touch on it, is obviously the opposition manager. We all know him, love him or loathe him. He's certainly never far away from a headline or two, and he's definitely kind of turning on the mind games a bit in terms of some of the stuff he's saying in the media. He kind of mentioned last night about celebrations. He was kind of suggesting the Rangers bench are celebrating a bit too much. He needs to kind of, doing the old thing before the game of, never say never in terms of managing in Scotland. Obviously, we are looking for a new permanent manager at some point, kind of getting people excited in that way. Is this a bit of a test for Barry Ferguson? You know, fairly inexperienced manager. He's going up against one of the game's greats. You know, for some people, the greatest. And in terms of those mind games, is this a test for him in terms of his ability to just shut all that out and just focus on the game and the football?
It is a test, but I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to fail it because he's bit when it comes to Jose. I was at Barry's first game as captain, where he got given the captain's armband because Lorenzo Amoruso was seen as being the man to blame for Martin O'Neill coming to Scotland and getting the better of Rangers. So Lorenzo had to go kind of halfway through the season, and then comes Barry. He gets a captain's armband when he's still a kid, basically. And Lorenzo Amoruso, at the start of that game that he was against Dundee United, he was bitching at him and moaning at him. He was trying to order Barry about. He's trying to undermine him publicly. So Lorenzo come down the tunnel suddenly wearing these boots with big green flashes on them. You know, he was bitter as any. He was absolutely raging, and he was seeking to publicly undermine the guy who'd been awarded the captaincy, even though, of course, it was Advocaat's decision to give Barry the captaincy. And Barry just took it. He never turned around and snapped back at Amoruso or told him to shut up or anything like that. He just went and he scored a wonderful goal, Barry, and that was it. No more from Amo. He scored a wonderful goal that night, his first night wearing the armband. And I think he's been raised with Derek Ferguson, his big brother and what have you. He's been raised in an environment of the crap, the bullshit, the folk trying to get in your face, get in your ears in professional football. I don't think Jose is going to do that. If Fenerbahce beat us, it will just be because they're better than us on the night. And I think I was actually quite worried. I was quite glad that Jose started that. It's almost a habit for him. He started the kind of the mind games, etc. Because he seems, and he doesn't speak Turkish. And when he's in various jobs, he's usually in Italian. When he's at Inter and what have you, and obviously the Spanish when he's at Real Madrid. And his English is absolutely perfect when he's at Chelsea. He can snap back, and the pressers, he's got that back and forth. And I think watching the press conferences before the game, where I know he's doing the thing post-match where he's making out that he's falling asleep to the length of the questions, like you're falling asleep to the length of my answers. But when you watch it, it's like the translation. He's got to get the questions translated from Turkish into English. He gets them for himself. And then his answer is translated back. So he can't do the quick one-liners. They lose all power. Yeah. They lose all effect. And he looked a bit down to me, the Jose that we know, before the game. Never mind. I know he's staying in a hotel there as well. Yeah. And I think the emphasis at Fenerbahce, Galatasaray are the only Turkish club to reach a European final, and they won it. Yanis Hadji's dad wins it in 2000. They won this. It's this one, the UEFA Cup as it was then. So it would be an amazing thing for Fenerbahce to equal that and become the second Turkish club. I think Jose knows that's not going to happen in this tournament, even if they do get past us. And the pressure is on him. Fenerbahce haven't won the league, I think, since 2014, the Super League in Turkey. So that's the massive pressure on them. And they're like 4 points off the top. Couldn't beat Galatasaray recently. So I think he looked a bit depressed. He was kind of going through the motions. I better say something a bit, a bit kind of mind gameish, but he'll just, if he beats us, he'll beat us because he's better at football tactically, etc. But I don't think the mind games are going to bother Barry.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, he's lost some of his shine, Jose. Over. You can't obviously take away from what he's achieved, but I don't know. I think since that second spell at Chelsea, I think it's kind of star power has somewhat reduced, to be honest. He wins
the Conference League with Roma, and he gets Roma to the Europa League final the following season. They only lose it on penalties. I think it's still in there. The ability. We're only talking that's like basically a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago. So I feel as if I think he just doesn't enjoy it at Fenerbahce. I think he's got himself in a bit of a hole there, but that might be me. He's working his mind games on me. I'm starting to think he's done it. So this doesn't suit him. He wants out of this game. He's going to hand it to us. I think what he was definitely doing after the game was he was doing, look at me being the bigger man and saying, a few of the interviews I saw, it was like, oh, it should have been more. Rangers should have beaten us by more. We actually did well to only get beat 3-1. Yeah. They were much better than us. We were terrible. But it was very kind of ostentatious. Look at me trying to play mind games, and I'm making out I've given up on the second leg. But that's what it was. He looks like he's just kind of doing it out of habit as opposed to really believing it.
Yeah, it's interesting. No game for us to preview at the weekend. Alex, are you looking for, before we finish up, are you looking forward to a weekend that Rangers officially cannot ruin?
You can't make me say that, Brian. You can't. I'm not going. I'm ashamed of myself, but I am just. It's the last two Saturday 3 o'clock. Here we go. Oh, Barry's in now. No, but definitely the game of St Mirren, right? That was just. We're getting the Philip Clement. That was the game where he had to go. It's not going to be as bad as that again. And then they win at Rugby Park midweek, which I'm watching on the telly. But Alex back in the stadium, I'm back in the ground, breathing the same air as them, and it's just we're rank again against Motherwell, and the folk are fawning out round about me, and I'm like, this is murder. I've actually had enough of this, But I'm ashamed, absolutely ashamed to say it, mate. But I have to admit, I am quite looking forward to it, and I'm hoping it's a bit different. The 3 midweeks off, having the 3 midweeks off is what killed Clement. we couldn't do it with them. It made it worse. I'm hoping it's having a weekend off is actually what we need, and that works for Barry.
Yeah, hopefully, and I think you'll not be the only one looking forward to a weekend that Rangers can't ruin. Right, I think we'll call it time there. All that's left for me to do is thank my guest, Alex. Thanks as always.
Well, thanks very much, Brian. A pleasure, sir.
Thank you. As well as being live tonight, the show will be available on all podcasting platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Acast, and Stitcher. The podcast will be back next Friday. There's no podcast on Sunday because we don't have a game to review. So John and Stuart will be with you next Friday to look back at all the action from the return leg at Ibrox. Until next time, bye for now.